Iron and Infrastructure Podcast Introduction. The podcast that ties together fitness and construction, shifting the industry narrative and giving insight on how to become a business owner while living life under the bar, weightlifting, personal development, the infrastructure industry, and how to merge the two worlds to achieve prosperity. I'd rather be sidelined trying to achieve greatness than watch greatness achieved and it only set on the sideline. Now introducing your host, Jacob Emery. All stand and applaud, please.
This episode is brought to you by R&R Pipeline, an infrastructure company. Our purpose? Enhancing America's infrastructure with a safety-driven, integrity-led culture that provides an environment for team members to grow and thrive. On today's episode of the Iron Infrastructure Podcast, we have a couple themes: identifying success, willing to take a risk, but I want to start with everything happens for a reason. So the guest today is someone that I just met probably a year or two ago, but it's someone that I consider a very, very good friend of mine now. The story of how we met is pretty unique, but then what happened as far as a friendship and a real collaboration or partnership is even more unique. This individual is from Colorado originally, came here for an opportunity, and then now is kind of a gypsy between Colorado, Ohio, and wherever else the hell he ends up going. So Murphy Smartt, welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Jake. Yeah.
So, I want to start with everything happens for a reason. So me and you met at a high school reunion, I think is where it was.
Yeah.
And you had actually reached out to R&R Pipeline, and at the time myself, for a directional bore quote.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so
waterline.
And so I remembered your name and came up to you at this event, started talking to you, and we hit it off right away.
Yeah.
My wife and your fiance now
Yeah, just got engaged.
are very close. And so we talked, hit it off that night, drank a few bourbons, and then one thing led to the other. And then we end up, I think, the next night out at dinner, or very short time frame out at dinner.
You at Antridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were over there for Hoodstock. And started talking some more, and just kind of very organic how we met.
It was.
Yeah.
And then I remember we're sitting at dinner one night, just BSing about life and business, and you asked, what is the one pain point on our pipeline right now? I said, man, really need job costing software developed and put into place because of X, Y, and Z that had just happened.
That's right.
And then your response was,
well, if you remember, that's when we were out at Easton. And the girls actually were returning some clothes or doing some sort of shopping. So we decided to sit down and have a bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
Got to talking about it. And, you brought it up that was something you guys were working on. And that's what I do a little. I mean, dabble in it on the side, I guess, is software implementation.
Right. So I would say 2 weeks later, we're working together. You're a consultant for us.
Yeah.
We spent probably about 6 months.
Yeah.
Really, and like long term, it was probably 6 months, and then maybe a few months after, and incrementally.
Right.
But me and you spent about 2 months, a few days a week, grinding out, developing this
taking
software,
an idea, making it something tangible,
putting action to this thought.
Yeah.
And it was painful, for both of us. I think it was a very good learning experience.
So, and it goes like that 10x.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's going to be something that's simple, like this is what I want, this is what it takes to achieve it. And then it takes so much more than that, And
10 times harder than what you would think.
Yeah, and I would say we got it to a point that it's successful and it's getting you everything you guys would like, but there's still more capabilities because as you start to peel back those layers in a project of that caliber, you see everything it can do,
So the 80% approach was how I looked at it, and I think you did as well from the start, because we had an imperfect opportunity. There was no 100% or no success that could be defined, because what we were trying to define had to be developed first.
And just time management in general, something that a project like that takes that much time to get rolling. Like how it was just dumb luck that the project that I was here in Ohio working on got pushed back. That actually allowed me to work on that with you guys over at R&R.
Right. So everything happens for a reason. You know, we met that day. We ended up working together. We ended up becoming great friends. And then between our networks, between the people that we associate with,
Right.
we establish not only a friendship but a network of people that we're friends with.
Right.
And then there were a few times where I introduced you to Jim Havens.
Yeah.
You introduced us to Bill Lucas.
Yeah.
And a long-time friend of yours, is now an advisor for us.
Yeah.
Our attorney is now someone that you've worked with.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how
Yeah.
I knew about you. I knew
Cody
you were.
comes out to my place in Colorado now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He came out this last year, came hunting with me. So, yeah.
And it's amazing how just talking and introducing yourself
Right.
and just being a good person,
I was,
authentic person.
we're going to do this the whole time. Probably have to
probably.
interrupt each other, cut each other off. I apologize. We do that. But I don't think we offend each other.
No.
So that's good. Whenever we met and started talking, like I was like the odd man out. I'm from Colorado. I'm new to the area. I'm dating someone here that is well known in her high school class, and I didn't know anybody. I knew
Right.
two people in that whole room. Kind of got thrown into the fire there, and you came up and just started shooting it straight with me,
Right.
talking about business. You actually remembered me in that conversation about it was butt fusion welding pipe. I had a project I wasn't familiar with.
Right.
They call them Jake projects now.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Yeah,
what
they
it's,
do.
yeah. The one-offs and stuff over at R&R.
Yeah,
so.
because any of the projects that are going to go downhill are normally referenced after me because I'm the one that initiated
Well,
it.
we never ended up doing that one. So
Right.
that's good,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So just, putting yourself out there, there's a power in that, developing your network, but you never know. So many people were scared to put their hand out there and introduce themselves to somebody.
Right.
And I think it's something that's been somewhat natural for me. And I'd say it's natural for you as well.
Yeah, and so I think one of my skills I do is I get like passionately curious about something, and that's how our paths originally crossed. Is because I was actually implementing software for the company I work for now.
Right.
I did some bid software, helped them out, do their demolition contractor.
Right.
So I coupled that with some of my knowledge from the past. I worked in coal mines, a lot of earth moving in that, a lot of utilities. So I kind of bridged the gap there.
Right.
And that's why I was working on utilities, and just I knew I needed to figure out this estimate, this bid. So I was just like, pull up Google, start looking it up, I'll figure it out.
Right.
I was like, I'll just figure it out. And that's how our paths crossed. Is I wasn't scared to talk to somebody if I was honestly trying to figure out and gain information. You know what I mean? And that's like, that doesn't bother me at all. Like
Right.
I'm not scared to talk to somebody to understand something I don't understand.
100%.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable and acknowledging what you don't know, to me, is a strength. It's not a weakness. A lot of people were more reluctant to put themselves out there because of the acknowledgement of what they don't know than they are
Right.
to
Well,
say,
it's
hey,
like- it's
I don't
like
know
that.
what this is about. I don't know what I'm looking at, but I need to know it and I want to know it. So do you understand this?
In business, I think a lot of people tend to have that. If I show all my cards, I'm gonna get played.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's
100%.
like
And
that's counterproductive.
And majority of the time, cards being shown are, you're showing that you have a good hand, that you have a strong hand, and that you're not scared of what the outcome is, that you're willing to be vulnerable, you're willing to, showcase your inexperience in a certain area or lack of expertise in an area for the greater good of everyone around you.
Right.
Somebody has to step up at some point and say, yep, we don't know what the hell we're doing.
Right.
And when we had that conversation that day and you asked that question, it was a pain point for me because I just went through a grueling 6-month period of trying to do this massive bid, and it sucked. And I know now, especially, I never want to have to do that again.
Yeah.
So what became this big, per se problem was really an opportunity to advance and accelerate our business. And that was the stepping stone. I had no idea when I came up and introduced myself to you that we would end up working together and becoming very good friends.
Right.
I had no idea, but
Well,
I'm glad that I did because now we're great friends and we've introduced each other to each other's networks, and it's helped us both quite a bit.
yeah, it's those like silver linings. You know what I mean? So I was supposed to be in Ohio originally for a long summer.
Right.
Was the plan? A long
Right.
summer. The guy I work for, he's a great friend. I've known him from hunting. He comes to my place and hunts with me for 8 years now, 9 years, something like that. And he had a project. He said it was prevailing wage. I was living in California at the time, and I was kind of burnt out on that whole lifestyle and the rat race out there. And decided to come here for a summer and kind of get my ducks in a line and make a good game plan to figure it out from there.
Right.
And here we are. I've been here for 5 years, man.
Yeah.
And so
That's crazy thing.
I was just in March 17th. I've been here for 5 years.
That's wild.
And like I was, this preparing for this type of podcast. I'm like, let's see what I've done. Let's review. Let's think about it. Let's reflect. Take the blinders off. Get out of the process for a second. Like what's been accomplished, and it's nuts. It's nuts to think about that.
Yeah.
I was just going to come here and drive equipment for a summer. He told me he had bulldozers and he tore down schools, so I could drive a bulldozer through school if I wanted. And I'm like,
yeah, sign me up.
yeah,
That sounds like fun to me.
Definitely come out from
Right.
California.
Like you're
for that.
going to pay me for that?
Yeah. Yeah. So
It's amazing when trying to identify what 10X looks like moving forward. The easiest way to truly identify it is reflection.
yeah,
So looking in the past and, okay, what did I do to get to the point I'm at now? What was the 10X leap to get me here?
yeah,
And doing that, reflecting and having gratitude for what you've went through, the adversity you've overcame, and how you use it as fuel to prosper in life. There's a superpower there that's, a lot of people say, oh, don't look in the past. Well, everything that's happened in your past led you to where you're at now.
Right.
And understanding the why behind of it and what you learned and how you overcame it is super powerful.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that I think is a character asset for me. Is and going back to I've listened to your podcast. I'm aware of this is we want to encourage blue collar people. That's how I was raised, blue collar. That's how I still am. I still truly believe I'm blue collar, and trying to flip the narrative of why is blue collar. It's not a negative thing. A lot of places, coal mining, it was like mine's always closing, or I'm in this trench, or I'm doing all this and this is bullshit. You know what I mean? That's kind of the thought process in the field.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about your past and you talk about things like that. One of my strengths is trying to look at my past and make something that might be a hurdle something I'm thankful for. You know what I mean? And so and I think that's a skill that I think I try to relay to a lot of people that I'm involved with consistently. Is like it's just simply something that's happened, and the way you're holding on to it is what's hurting you, not the thing that did,
right,
but the way you perceive it.
The way you react to adversity is what really dictates where you go in life.
Yeah.
We know each other personally very well. You know a lot of my backstory. I know a lot of your backstory on a personal level, and we've both been able to do something with serious life adversity that lead us now to have the mindset that we do, to create awareness or help other people out, because we can expedite journeys pretty easy with the hardships that we went through.
Yeah.
And that's what this show's about. It is really for anybody. Blue collar workforce is the initial target, because it's not what people do, it's why they do it.
Right.
And so, yes, I'm a pipeliner by what I've done my entire life, but why I do it is now to help other people out, to help other people identify what success looks like to them, because success is individual. Yeah. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur and own businesses, or be on a podcast, or be a guest on a podcast, or own a ranch, own a pipeline company, or a supplement company. Like, everyone has their own identity as far as what success looks like. So many people don't even identify it. So when they don't identify what it is, then why they try to get up every day and why they go to work every day isn't clear.
It hasn't always been clear for me. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not always clear for a lot of people, myself included. Yeah.
So, I just try to relate, trying to relate consistently what I do. If you're going to, I'm a firm believer, if you're going to change the world, the best way to do it is with the people you interact with. It's the people you see consistently. If you can't influence and help them live a better, happier life, then you know what I mean? That's where you start.
And yourself. Like, if you can't live a better life yourself,
right.
What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? Where's your time being consumed that is leading you down a negative path? Right. Or, who in your network or your team is that weak link that's bringing you down?
Yeah. Or why would someone want to take advice? Like, sometimes I don't need to take it, be giving advice. Sometimes I just need to listen, sit down, open my ears, and just listen.
Yep.
And that's honestly what I did in California. That's what led me there to kind of turn, going back to negative mindset, flipping the script, getting positive, getting motivated, getting that all happened then. That all happened when I left Colorado, moved to California, and was pretty broken shell of a person, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And so, that all was very relatable with the blue collar community. I was working in coal mines, I was working on ranches, I was, busting tires in tire shops. I was, everybody in that area is blue collar. Love them to death, raised with them. They're my brothers, and that's just the mentality that was adopted.
Right.
And I had to.
Well, so we'll get to this in a minute about environment, but for me, the reason that I wanted to start this show is because I care so much about the people that do the same thing that I did growing up, and all that I've known is blue collar work. Like, it's always been busting my butt every single day, working my ass off with my hands. I know everyone thinks I'm this pretty boy now, but I wasn't scared to go get muddy and do all the hard shit. I did it for a long time, believe it or not. There's probably pictures out there somewhere that I could prove it, even though you probably don't believe me, Murphy.
Well,
but your opinion don't matter right now.
It's funny though how, like, in positions that you're in, and even I find myself in too, like, you'll be out on a job site, you'll be out on a crew, and people are like, well, they don't know how to do it.
Right.
They don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And
my competitive side says I'm not allowed to do it anymore. I'm not even certified to do anything that we do. I got all my certifications expired, and I'm sitting there chomping at the bit because I would rather be in that ditch sometimes or be on that piece of equipment. For me, absolutely. When it comes to running equipment, that was my childhood love, is running equipment from a young age. So I always, enjoyed running equipment growing up. And then whenever I got the chance at R&R to run equipment, it was like my life success all came to this, and I loved every moment of it. And even now, therapeutically, I go out back if we have a track hoe in the office or a dozer at the office, and I'll go out back and mess around for 20 minutes.
It is.
And it's like, it's a reminder of why I'm so passionate about it.
That's when I make it back to the ranch, that's what I do. I'll jump in, whatever's going on, any project, whether it's, branding or doing hay, putting hay up, tearing out beaver dams. It's like therapeutic. It's nice. It's a nice change of pace from the office stuff now.
So you are a very unique individual, and I'll say that with the most respect I can, because you have such a wide variety of passion in life and experiences in life that not very many people have at all, let alone even know are possible. So let's take a step back and go back to the ranch, Colorado, what you have there, what you do, your passion. The trip to California, just tie all that together for everyone that, you mentioned it.
Yeah.
So let's tie it together.
Yeah. So, the ranch was like my first place I landed as a kid that was like consistently influencing me in a good way.
Right.
I moved around quite a bit, single mom, love her to death. She did a great job. But, when I got there, it was like my world got a little bit bigger. I got to see opportunity.
Right.
And, I'm actually, technically, I'm fourth generation on the ranch.
Yeah.
So we just homesteaded it. 2023 was 100 years in the family.
That's insane.
Yeah. We still have the homestead. We still elk hunt at it. You know what I mean? It's still a running operational elk cattle ranch. We do hay. We do the whole thing,
100 years is a long time.
Crazy, dude. And I think about how difficult it must have been then, because like we still get 30 below weather, and then like we had so much snow last year. I think it was over like 700 inches or something like that. Just astronomical. Like, how could you a homestead and live in cabins in the middle of the mountains and like think that was better than that was you and your ambitions at its peak at that time. You know what I mean? That was you being a go-getter, was going out, and like people wouldn't do that now. People don't want to live there now. You know what I mean?
I can't even conceptualize how difficult it would have been. You think 100 years ago, automobile industry was really just starting to be something, but not there.
Not really.
There's no automobiles probably out there at that point. Everything's by horse, I'm sure.
They call it like living history because, it's all 100 years old, so maybe a little bit longer. And so there's people there that you heard stories directly from their mouth of like what it was like when there wasn't like a town, And
That's wild.
So yeah, I mean,
time moves slower there, right?
Yeah. I would say
it doesn't evolve.
And an economy and business structure, that's kind of what's drawn me to Ohio, is that area is probably 20 to 30 years behind where we're at in Ohio,
right,
as far as like development and everything like that. And I'm thankful for it, because on that end of the spectrum, I don't really want it to be developed,
right,
out there ranching
100%.
and the majestic nature of the outdoors. It's better when people don't touch it. So
100 years also a long time. Like,
yeah,
100 years of this ranch and being sustained generation after generation.
yeah,
Like, there's a lot of power in that.
yeah,
That's not just property. That's ingrained in your DNA. Like,
yeah,
that is something that you're born into, raised into.
yeah.
It's something that a trespasser in that regard is something that's probably a lot different than what it is in Ohio.
Yeah.
That's very sacred to your heritage.
And it gets this stigma around it that it's like, Yellowstone, man. I get that and like the ranch. People see some stuff on Netflix and they're like, oh, that's what it's like,
Yeah.
right? And you're like, oh no.
Yeah. We don't call it the train station.
Nah, there's no. Yeah, if you could find help, you know what I mean. You're
Right.
out there with you and one of your good buddies that growing up that would come out and help build fence and move
Right.
cows with you. That's there's 48 hours of work to get done in 24 hours of the day.
Right.
Every day you're always all year you're fighting that. Winter's gonna
That weather
happen.
timeline, yeah.
Either we're not getting enough rain, we're gonna get too much snow. The calves didn't gain enough weight. The elk aren't moving right. It's always that mentality.
And there's a lot of power in development in general. And I'm going to go to personal development, but you mentioned preparing for winter. So whenever you set goals or look into what's next, or what's next year look like? So say, coming into 2024, what's next year look like? Well, it looks a lot like 2023 did.
Yeah.
Because there's still 4 seasons in a year. The sun goes up and comes down, but it's going to look exactly the same unless you develop yourself personally.
Yeah.
So winter's always going to come. The winters are never going to get easier.
Yeah.
You're going to get stronger and more insight, more education. So, yeah, the weather's always going to get cold in Colorado. It's going to be miserable.
It's going to snow.
That's inevitable.
Yeah, it's going to be dark all the time.
Right. But you can get stronger, more educated, and figure out a different way to do what you do and navigate through the winter.
That's actually how I found California, is because, growing up, man, you planned your Halloween costumes around a snowsuit because it was going to start snowing and it was going to stay. And you were going to have snow until the middle of May. You know what I mean? There was snow. That's just what it was. And so whenever it's there's snow and there isn't much to do besides feed cows and fix equipment. You can kind of sneak off, and that's when you get your time off for the year.
Right.
You don't get any time off from the time spring comes till the time fall's there. Like that's when you work.
Right.
And so I would I'd go visit friends, and I'd go to Kentucky and I might go on a whitetail hunt and I go visit friends. And that's whenever I really kind of started to scratch. Like I went to college for a little bit. Wasn't for me at the time. I was more into the party
Extracurriculars. Yeah. Same.
Yeah. And so I went back to ranching. And in the wintertime, I would go and kind of expand my perspective of, what life is, what's going on in the world outside of this 2,000 person town that I went to high school in. And so did that for a few winters. I'd take off for 2-3 weeks at a time. And like going back to that hole I was in, I needed it. By the time I took off to check out something new, to open my perspective up, to gain new tools, to address next year, to have a better year, to be a better me, I needed it. It wasn't because I was like happy-go-lucky, like life's awesome. I was like, I needed to change something up so it went better. And that's how went to California. And I landed in California, Orange County, and like the airport was like, welcome to Orange County, the happiest place on earth. And I'm like, gag, this place already not my favorite.
Right.
And then like started to learn stuff there, started to learn like how to deal with the things that I wasn't dealing with there.
Right.
And so I was only going to be there for like 30 days or so. And then it like snowballed, took off, lived there for 2.5 years. Yeah. And so that's what started me down this trip.
Right.
What's going on in life, what's going on, how do I learn to have that better next year.
Right. And there's a lot of guys that, at Max Effort at R&R Pipeline, at, all the different areas of business and friends and network that I have, that a lot of guys had a situation that they didn't know was in there. They didn't know there was a different way of life, but just knew that this couldn't be the only way. Right. And so for you grow up in Colorado, the small town, you only know one way of life. It's 25 or 30 years, behind the rest of the world. And then you move to California.
Yeah.
and you took a huge leap of faith.
Right.
Had to be a full commitment with little confidence in what the outcome was going to be, but you knew there was something else out there. You couldn't see it, you couldn't feel it, but
Yeah.
you knew that you needed to expand
Well,
yourself.
To be honest with you, the constraints that I built up for myself living in that small area, my first dipping my foot in the pool of trying to see what else was out there was, I worked on the ranch in that area. That's not like everybody's a rancher,
Right.
That whole area is, you're working in the oil fields, you're working in the coal mines, you're working in the power plants, you're working as a lineman.
Pipeline.
Yeah. And so I went to the coal mine to understand what coal mining was so I could relate to more people.
Right.
Because one, I was not really a part of the ranchers because I moved there in middle
Right.
school. And then I was not really a part of coal miners because I had ranch ties. So I just wanted to be able to relate and
Right.
understand. And I wanted to know what was going on.
Right.
And so after, coal mining and after ranching, and then I went to California, I was like shell shocked at like the change of pace of what life is. Like, dude, you could go get dinner at 11 o'clock at night,
Right.
anytime, any
That's
day of the
wild.
week. And so like there, I learned how to cook in Hayden because there's like 6 restaurants,
Right.
including the McDonald's, the Taco Bell.
They probably close at 8 or 9 o'clock
Yeah,
at night, right?
exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Open 4 days a week. So, it's the change of pace, and like, I wouldn't say I was scared of what California life was, but I was more scared of living the same life consistently in Hayden. I
Right.
already had it figured out what that had to offer, and that was more of my fear base than doing something new.
Right.
Like, I knew the results of it. I
Right.
could see the results of it,
Yeah.
and I didn't want those results.
Right. Well, you already know that this is what it is now,
Mm-hmm.
and I can always come back, right? There's always a way to come back to whatever the current reality is that's causing you pain. So
Mm-hmm.
worst case scenario, and you lived in your truck for a while until you got yourself established in
Yeah,
California.
dude. Yeah,
So
I had a
you-
place
you-
to stay for like a couple weeks when I first got out there, and obviously I was 24 at the time. I wasn't like financially well off by any means, and I knew I needed to, full commit.
You knew the real risk in your life though was staying there
Yeah.
in Colorado
Yeah.
doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And the power isn't knowing that, oh, I got this great thing, this great opportunity.
Yeah.
No, I got 2 weeks to get my shit together or I'm coming back. But then you end up staying for years.
Yeah.
But you had to live in your truck for a while to
Yeah.
figure it out. Like,
Yeah, it's funny, dude. So like I got my truck out there, and that was actually my house, my way to make money. That was like I knew like that was my foot in the door.
Right.
When I got that out there, that like it was just when I was there by myself in a suitcase, it was just vacation.
right.
When my truck came out there, it was like, make something happen.
Yep.
It's like you're doing something
Yeah.
different now. Make something
Right.
happen. And so I actually, I'd use my truck, and I won't like be bashful about it. I was on a spiritual journey when I went out there. I was trying to figure out a different way
yourself,
of
right?
life. Yeah,
Yeah.
find myself, find new guidance, find new understanding, find some sort of purpose, find some sort of motivation. And, I found, AA, I found all sorts of different spiritual guidance. I found all sorts of stuff out there.
Whenever you change your environment,
Yeah.
because you had a pain point, and it got to the point that the pain was so bad that the risk was staying in the same position because of the pain.
Right.
So you take this journey to go find yourself.
Right.
Like, how powerful is that? I relate it for me, I bought a house when I was 20 or 21. It was a junk trailer on a foundation, and it was what I always reference that experience as was horrible, but the amount that I learned, I was broke.
Yeah.
I had nowhere to go but up.
Yeah.
But I knew that buying this place was risky, but I knew that staying where I was at before that was way more risky because my environment was dictating my life as far as an evolution standpoint. When I got out of that environment, probably the same as what you did,
Yeah.
everything started to change.
Yeah. Fast.
It was hard, I'm sure. It was very probably difficult, even though maybe simple.
Yeah.
But I appreciate being broke now.
Yeah.
I appreciate being on that floor and only being able to see up and not being able to go. Like, rock bottom was already there for me
Yeah.
at that point.
Rock bottom, and then I feel like I was being like almost smothered with the sense of I seen my ceiling. And that's what motivated me so much more to make it work some other way.
Because it was low.
Yeah. And it was like, that's all I got. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, nah, I think
There has to be
there
more
has
to
to be
life.
more to
Yeah.
it. There has to be more to it.
Yeah.
And so going back to California, here I am now with my truck out there, no money, living in it. And I start, I'm at AA, and everyone needs help moving things, And I didn't even think I was an alcoholic. I'm not. I don't have a drinking problem. I had a living problem. You know what I mean? Like, things with how I operated and handled my thought
Life.
process
Yeah.
was, and I went on like a sober hiatus for 4 years. I was sober, bone sober, nothing, just didn't do anything. And I needed it so I could sort through that baggage, and so there I am, and I'm hustling. I'm like, okay, people need moved, people need this. I have a truck in Orange County. Like, I'm hanging TVs, I'm hanging pictures, I'm doing all this stuff, living in my truck. And then a guy at the club, he's like, hey, I got this big project. I need somebody else to, I need another body on site, pretty much. I need you to help. He's installing, it's like this $20 million house, and he's got all the furniture for it, and it's down going into the ocean, and you have to like take all the like fancy furniture, through these stairways, glass stairways, not mess the house up, move it in. And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Go, show up, work with him for the day. By the end of the day, he's like, you need to work for me. Like, you're working for me. You're not, this wasn't a one day thing. You're working for me. And I'm like, nice, I'm in. And so then I start making money, and then I finally get my own place, a couple weeks in. And that was actually, things started to snowball like it was supposed to happen. The place I found, the person that was my roommate, everything. I was on the third story, a block and a half off the beach in Laguna Beach, because the lady that had the apartment building, she liked us. She seen we were hustlers. She seen we were just trying to work. And she was like, well, what can you pay? And like, that was the type of relationship she provided to us.
Right.
And then we were able to actually, provide value back and like, fix things at her place, fix things at her other properties. Like, and so like, when things like that started to happen, it wasn't hard to be in California anymore. It was hard for a second. It's like, what am I doing? Like, homeless in California, like 24 years old. Like, I'm 31 now. Lots changed, but at that time you're like, I don't have anything figured out.
Right.
It's easy to learn when you don't have anything figured out. I actually, at that time, was working for his name was Mark. I was working for him, and it was before I actually ended up being his director of operations. Before I left, before I got to that point, I was actually cleaning bathrooms at the Alano Club where I went to meetings, just for extra money, something to do, keep me out of trouble. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think about that now. I'll be like, I don't want to do this job. I don't want to do what I have to do right now. This is not fun. And I'm like, I remember cleaning toilets in California and being okay, happy. You know what I mean? Like, just cool with it. And it's like, this is what I need to be doing.
Right. So that brings me to, like, you segued right to something that is very impactful for me.
Yeah.
I thought buying R&R Pipeline was going to be my lifetime achievement award.
Yeah.
And 12 years, one goal. 2 days after that goal was accomplished, all the hardship, all the sacrifice, and I was absolutely gutted because I had no fulfillment at all.
Yeah.
And I could not figure out why. Yeah. I thought we closed on Friday. Sunday morning I wake up. I thought I'm going to wake up with a crown on my head and the world's at my fingertips.
King of the world.
And I was gutted. Huh. And what I didn't understand at the time, and I do now, is buying R&R Pipeline wasn't the accomplishment. The person I became during that journey was the accomplishment, because I was able to buy R&R, and the person that I developed into was the real reward.
Yeah.
So now every day is a good day to me. Every day I enjoy the process. I get, tired and exhausted and frustrated just like anybody else, but to be super pissed or miserable in life is not even an option for me, because I know what the accomplishment of 12 years, one accomplishment, felt like after. And I didn't have the perspective that I needed to understand that the real reward was myself and who I became.
The journey.
The development is what it's all about during the journey, not being at the destination. Mm-hmm. And there's always a next destination. It's never going to end for me. Like, there's always something next. But the process and the enjoyment of educating yourself on a daily basis, that's the holy grail for me.
Right. Well, and that's like, I agree. I understand from experience what you're talking about. And as I dive in to that deeper, I think of it as, you know, the process I am practicing right now will show me my result. You know, I have a quote that I, you know, there's a couple of little mantras I like to, you know, stick to, you know, and one of those is, you know, watch your thoughts, they become your words.
100%.
Watch your words, they become your actions.
Yep.
Watch your actions, they become your pattern. Watch your pattern, they become your destiny. So if you are constantly thinking, this is going to work, how can I figure this out, how am I going to do this, and then you start talking about it, you're going to have a good result. And that's your process. You know, if you start
positivity,
impending doom, this is never going to work, this is going to fail, I'm scared of failure, like that is what your results are going to be. You're going to build yourself into a negative result.
So understanding that fear is in everybody.
Oh yeah.
Everybody has fear. I am fearful quite often. I'm not afraid though.
Yeah.
Being afraid means that you're afraid to fail. Being afraid to fail means you're going to fail. Yeah. Everybody's going to fail.
So were you scared a little bit? Did you have fear when you woke up that day and you realized, I don't have that feeling? I thought I expected this feeling of buying this company. I expected to feel so good about myself, and I don't. Did you have this like panic attack for a second where you were like, what's wrong? Something's wrong.
I think I was sad because I did not. Sadness to me is having a problem or a feeling that you don't know the answer to. Anxiety to me is having a situation that you have too many options on and you just can't pick one. I didn't know why I felt that way. Yeah. That's what the gutting feeling was. It was, this accomplishment was supposed to mean something. Yeah. And it did, but it didn't feel anything because internally, I didn't realize that internally who I became was the accomplishment. The other part of it was...
I get how you circle that back together now.
So
I get how you circle that back together now.
The other part of it was the reality of what just actually happened. Yeah. So when you seek out this opportunity or this goal in life, like, I'm going to own R&R Pipeline by the time I'm 30. That sounds great, you know, but then you actually do it. Yeah. And then me and Cody wake up on Sunday morning like, oh shit, we just bought this multi-million-dollar company. We had no money. We have no money now. And now we don't have a family of 4 or 5 to feed. We have 55 or 60 families to feed. Yeah. So the reality check comes into play where this glamorous thing isn't so glamorous when it actually happens sometimes. But then the ability to overcome the immediate adversity and then the short-term adversity and then understanding the bigger picture long-term.
If this fails, it's not just me failing now that it's purchased.
Right.
I'm failing for everybody involved.
Right.
And
the amount of liability is huge.
That is way scarier than me failing for myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been fearful of, you know, certain things not going a certain way for right reasons, but I've never really been afraid. At that moment, I just didn't understand fear. So now I feel like I do, where fear happens to everyone, and a coward has fear and a hero has fear. It's what you do with it. So a hero run towards it. I put my arm around fear now and say, come on, let's ride. Yeah. You're coming with me. I'm not going with you. I'm not letting you dictate the outcome. I'll dictate the outcome, and you're going to be right here with me. You know, a coward kind of stays away from it.
You believe you're suited to handle the situation. And if not, you'll develop yourself into being suited for it because of your experience.
Able to recognize it.
With how you didn't know, and you got that ball rolling with buying R&R. Like you got that. Well, it started before that.
It started before that
because you got that ball rolling whenever you decided day one when you were a flagger at R&R that I think I can do a little bit more than just flag.
I just didn't understand buying R. I didn't understand the learning through the journey until later on. Yeah. Like I understood enough to know that I took these steps to get to this point of buying the company, but I was not able to reflect on the why behind all of it. Yeah. Like, why do I feel this way after this accomplishment? Because it should be the height of the journey, and it was deflating.
That processing, you were processing it still.
Yeah, and that's why I call it sadness, because I just didn't know what the answer was. Okay. You know, it's not that I was, like, I felt internally sad. I just did not know why I felt the way I did. I couldn't explain the feeling, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah. You had to pause.
And it was like I was still trying to calibrate what the hell just happened. Yeah. But then the reality of I know what's fact and what's not fact. Yeah. Right? I know at this point what's fact. Fact is, now I am liable for all these other people. It's not just me. Yeah. I'm not just supporting my family.
Wow. And your success and their success are intertwined. Like that's
100%.
Yeah, and I do see that.
Every
I see you
decision I
doing
make
that.
now is a
Yeah.
reflection of my family and everyone else's family here. I
Yeah.
represent more than just everyone, like everyone in my direct family.
And the decisions that your team makes
Hmm.
is the result too. You know what I
Right.
mean? Um,
But at the end of the day, every decision made internally at our pipeline, regardless of intent, regardless of motive, no matter what, it's on me and Cody.
no,
100%.
I don't
And
believe that. I've worked with your team there, and you trust your team to make their decisions.
100%.
So me seeing how you guys operate, you trust the people as professionals that you work with, and it's like that's I think the biggest success that I see in your corporation is that you do invest in the people, and then you believe in them to do their job because
100%.
they're the right one for it.
100%.
You know,
Don't micromanage. We want flexibility because what we want is everyone to figure out what success looks like to them
yeah,
and being able to, enjoy their life and be fulfilled in the process.
yeah,
Micromanagement to me is a complete bottleneck for devastation in an organization. If to me, I look at it like this. If you have a well-established process, and by process, I mean guidelines. So everyone has a path that they can follow to get their job done and achieve the next step. Let people have freedom to do what they do in their skill sets. So we don't tell people in the company, like, you have to clock in and clock out at this time. No, if you need to leave early this day to go watch your son play basketball and work late the next night, expectations are set, and then guidelines for that expectation are there for you to figure it out yourself.
Right.
That's how people thrive in life, by bottlenecking someone and breathing down their neck and setting these rigid, copyrighted,
yeah.
C Corp type things that just, they're very restrictive
Where'd you
in
learn
growth.
that now? Like now that you're saying that this is something you give to an environment,
Yeah.
like where did you learn this? Because it wasn't something you just thought up on a pillow one night.
No.
Like you probably, I'm assuming someone probably taught this to you.
So I was taught micromanagement and expectation with no reason why.
Yeah.
So always being told what to do, but not understanding why you should do it
Okay.
or what the desired outcome is, was
So
the
you
first
were
point.
micromanaged, and that actually allowed you to not micromanage when you were in a position.
So
So once you grew to the
Yeah.
next position, you actually decided that's not how I want to treat people, and so you try not because it happened to you.
yeah,
Right. Is that-
unreasonable
does that make-
expectations, I would say. So like, okay, we're not making money, so you need to do this, this, and this. So just work harder with no reason behind of it. So
Okay.
like, you need to push guys harder, you need to do this or do that as a foreman. Well, tell me why I'm not doing well right now. What is the reason behind? You're telling me that I need to go push harder. I'm pushing everyone pretty hard, so there has to be something, a shortcoming somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But I think the other part of it was strategic coach. So strategic
Coach,
coach
okay.
really opened my eyes to understand that some of the stuff I kind of just thought about organically
Yeah.
wasn't that outlandish or crazy after all. That staying the same as what I had been raised into was the crazy thing for me.
Yeah.
And from a young age, I was kind of a rebel in every form and fashion of it, but I just was not willing to be another person that just went
Right.
with the crowd. Like,
Well, I didn't want to be a victim. Can you relate with that? Like,
1,000%.
I didn't want to see. I don't see myself as a victim.
Hell no.
And that is like a victim of the circumstances of life. And that is the foundation of a complaint of resentment of why life has been unfair to me.
lack of self-awareness,
Yeah,
man.
and it's everything manifests to that. I see myself as a victim. If that is what is coming out of your mouth, if that's the thought process that leads to words, that leads to actions,
Yeah.
like, so you're either a victim or you're growing and you're empowering yourself. And so,
Right.
yeah. And it's,
Well, from a spiritual standpoint, I don't pray to be stronger, or I pray for opportunity to make me stronger.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the skill acquired, it's about the opportunity to develop a skill.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of look at it, where praying for strength, well, that's something that you have to acquire. You have to develop. It's not something that is given to you. You have to, develop all these things. So when overcoming adversity, you figure out with adversity, you either want a different life or you want to be a victim.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I kind of look at it like this, we all live two lives. And the second one starts when we know that no one's coming to save us, that everything that we want in life is on us. No one else is our superhero. I referenced the superhero a couple times, but I'm my own damn superhero. In 10 years, the person I strive to be is what I wake up for every day. The person in 10 years that I want to be is the reason I do what I do.
So, and I'm glad you touched on that, because I've heard that, and I don't think I practice the same thought process. So for me, I do look up to people, and like I look up to, so if I see someone in a relationship with a friend who's a good friend, you know, and I want to learn how to be a good friend, I'm gonna go ask that person how to be a good friend.
But that's personal development to me.
Yeah. And so whenever I think of all those things, like, who do I want to be? Well, you know, I pick a little bit of that, and I pick a little bit of this situation, and I pick a little bit of that situation, because I've seen it and I see the results of it, and I'm like, I want to feel like that. And so that's how, you know, who do I want to be in 10 years? What's a little bit of that? And it's a little bit of that.
But it's not one other person outside of a combination of others, right?
No, and that's true. But I know that the way I learn best is by seeing it done.
And I look at that like a personal development thing. So for me, personal development isn't just finding a book and reading it. It's not.
Right.
Personal development is, what are you doing to educate yourself past the point of where you're at to get to where you want to go. And for me, I'm the same way. I've had certain mentors that absolutely going to reach out to and ask them advice for sticking points in my life. Doesn't mean I want to be any one individual. I have a combination of things that I want to achieve in my life because of what I've learned from others, whether it be a book, whether it be, you know, conversation, whether it be conversations me and you have. Me and you probably go at each other devil's advocate style more than, I mean, maybe me and Cody more, but me and you always end up going at each other with a different perspective, because we're trying to evolve, we're trying to grow. It's not like I'm coming at you in a negative light. It's like I'm giving you a different perspective, because you grew up in Colorado. I grew up in Ohio. Like, we have different perspectives on life, and it's been empowering for us.
I thought of this too. Like, your story is, went to what valley? Licking Valley? Graduated there. Your house is there. Your family's there. The company you've worked for, moved up through, purchased, developed, grown. Everything is in one location. And, you know, the things that motivated me to leave was, you know, I've never had that experience of life, of everything being so in the same
This is really interesting. I'm glad you brought this up.
And for me, I'm like, man, how's someone do something like that? So I'm curious. I'm passionately curious about what that life looks like. So, I mean, it goes back to one of our friendships. You know, I'm listening, I'm learning, I'm observing, because, you know, at the end of the day, like I am a gypsy person. I like to move. I like to see. I like to experience all of life, you know. And I also, part of that is to build something of value and structure that lasts for a long time, you know. And you're doing that here. Like, I'm understanding that if I just move and do all sorts of other random stuff, like, it's never gonna manifest into something that's very tangible,
right?
You know.
And you know what's interesting is, I thought about this earlier, and it's funny that you bring this up, because it just like was on my mind today. I have always had a residence in Newark, Ohio. But for the longest time, I did not even exist in this place, even when I was here.
So you're on the road.
So I was on the road from 2007 to 2015 or so. I was constantly traveling. I was never home, like, at all. And even when I was in high school, I wasn't present here. Like, I wasn't in the community. I was, you know, that outlier, troubled kid that, you know, went against the grain and everything. So it's interesting now, because when I walk back into the community now, the person that I was died. I'll say reborn, because that's the first thing I thought of, but I've evolved into something that my environment now is different, because I dictate my own environment, where the environment I came up in was a fist fight every day. And now it's funny, because, you know, R&R Pipeline, Licking Valley High School, them are the two staples in the community for me that haven't changed. But me walking on site of either one of the places is completely different because of who I am.
Who shows up to that is different now.
I lived in a hotel room for, you know, 7 or 8 years, pretty much consistently nonstop, 5 or 6 days a week. You know, I bought a house and I wasn't there but 1 or 2 days a week for probably 3 years.
Yeah.
So I was never even home.
Yeah.
I mean, when me and Mackenzie met for the first 6 months of the year, I wasn't home hardly at all.
Yeah.
I was on the road. And like, she would get so frustrated, like, are you going to come back? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? I'm like, I'm working on it. I'm trying. And finally it did happen.
Yeah.
But
Ladies
for the longest time,
with you, I'll tell you that. No, I'm just
yeah, that's the damn truth right there. That is fact. So for the longest time though, I was a gypsy in a different way.
Yeah.
I was like the short distant gypsy where I'm not going to Colorado to California to Ohio. Like I'm not all over the place.
Yeah.
I don't really have a home. So that it's a unique balance because born and raised here, always been here, but I am not like 99.9% of people here. And I've grown out of what should have been my environment. I should have been a good old boy going to the bar every night after work that was still in the field right now. That's what my destiny was if I would survive past 21.
Also, you're growing, and part of growing is seeing the area in a different light. Because I guarantee you there's a lot more in this community than going to the good old boys club.
Yeah.
That's also a benefit. It's a good thing here. The good old boys club in Ohio is cool.
Yeah.
Like it really isn't that bad of a deal.
Right.
But,
and I never really felt like I fit in anywhere. So for me, it's interesting because first of all, like I'm a pipeliner and a weightlifter. I mean, that in itself is different. Even with the guys we run around, I don't know if anyone else is, passionate about both, but maybe to the degree I am, but I've always had these two different like passions. And I never understood that they could collide and be one at all. It was just shit I like to do. I like to lift heavy weights. Yeah. I like to hit a boxing bag. I like to hit a heavy bag. I like to kick people. I like to do jiu-jitsu. I like competitive sports. I like playing basketball, which you did too. But I never really understood the physical demand and the physical like lifestyle that I had lived before I went to work was going to really help me prosper and get the things that I wanted out of life. And then when the mental application from the personal development started, everything started to tie together and change.
Yeah.
Everything started changing at that point.
That's interesting.
So it is interesting. We'll have to talk more about that at some point because it's very, very unique, I think, because it's just like you asking that's funny. But let's go to a quick commercial break and then we'll come right back and we're going to talk about the wellness side of this.
Okay.
This commercial break is brought to you by the Pipeline to Prosperity newsletter. What are you putting in your pipeline to be successful? An Iron and Infrastructure LLC production. Back from commercial break, we have a gypsy, Murphy Smartt, in the house today, and he doesn't look very muscular, but he is a little bit stronger than what everyone's probably going to give him credit for. Growing up on the ranch, not Brokeback Mountain kind of strong. He is strong in his own regard. But let's talk about all jokes aside. By the way, I just got to say that. But let's talk about growing up and playing sports. You grew up blue collar, so you had a work ethic. You had strength developed in a different realm.
Right.
But let's talk about the athletic realm and the competitive nature that you have, that we both have. But let's talk about you. Basketball, I know, is a equal passion for us.
Yeah, man. So it's actually competitive sports is the passion probably. If I can be competitive in it, if there's competition, like I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in. It doesn't
Same.
matter. Volleyball, we'd be playing ping pong. I don't care.
Right.
I want to win. And actually moving around quite a bit. My first sport I ever played was soccer. Loved it. Loved playing soccer. You can play soccer all over. And then whenever I made it into high school sports, I did, I guess in middle school, I did some wrestling, did track, did football, anything the school offered, I did. Baseball.
Which it probably didn't have much, right?
No.
Because it's such a small school.
Well, yeah. I graduated with 40 people, and it was the same 40 people
wild.
from the time I was in 5th grade to the time I graduated.
Wow.
Like, we might have had one or two new kids, And so you had to have everyone play or you didn't have a team. So I got to do everything, and I just really enjoyed it. Well, by the time I got into high school, I had to decide if I was going to do what I was going to do. I had the guiding business, and that's physical. Ranching is physical, and so then you go, and sports was actually my free time.
Yeah.
So I got to enjoy it as like a time off.
Right.
It was like an extracurricular thing. So, played basketball, ran track, and that was the sports I did.
Mm-hmm.
And actually what got me, my passion for basketball and what made me probably any good at it was, experienced loss in a family. My grandpa passed away and I just didn't really know what to do with my free time. So I
Give you
use
an outlet.
that as my outlet.
Well, and
And-
it's winter.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to go outside and hang out in the sunshine in Colorado, let alone
No.
probably go outside for any means outside of a survival, right?
Well, I would feed cows. You know what I mean? I'd plow sno. I'd
Survival though for cows and to
yeah,
get in and out
do
of the
the
driveway, like it
chores,
wasn't no luxury.
And I was really into snowmobiles. You ever heard of them?
Yeah.
You know what those are? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. It's flat out here. It doesn't snow, so I'm not sure. So anyhow, we do that backcountry. I'm not saying I was any good at it, but you definitely have a heavy piece of equipment and snow that's heavy, and it's a workout. So, but as far as sports, man, you know, I just, in that structure, I guess, you know, it was my outlet to process. And so that's why I got like almost addicted to it. I'd go in the morning, and there was twins that were in the grade ahead of me on the same team, and they were homeschooled, lived across the street. They would meet me at the high school before school, and we would play pickup games. We would just play 21, we'd play whatever. And so that was like, you know, if I was up, didn't want to be at the house, didn't want to be thinking of all, like, you know, my grandpa just passed away. He was pretty much like my father. You know, he passed away, and so that was how I was processing, and I got good at basketball because of it. You know, I got pretty decent at basketball, and so because I was so invested in that, got good at track. I did get scholarships to go play track at college. So that was you know, what really kind of got me into doing anything physical.
Well, it's a mental release too. You know, so many people just think working out is just this physical pursuit, but it's really, for me, it's as much mental. If I can wake up and go do the shit I do in the morning from 4 a.m. to 5:30 or 6 a.m., the rest of the day is not that damn bad, because that's really hard some days, right? So the mental aspect of it for you, was there any carryover there from the physical pursuit becoming a mental, you know, therapeutic response?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And even still to this day, you know, when we talked about California, man, I would go play pickup games, basketball, like on the beach, like talk about mental escape from your problems. You know, you're just playing pickup games on the beach or up on a cliff looking at the ocean or doing something like that. Like that was, you know, that was awesome.
I can't imagine.
Incredible. So
what about now, you know, in today's world? Like, you do so much. I know you're active at all times. You're kind of like myself. You're wired. You're pretty high strung.
Yeah.
What about now? What does your wellness look like?
I've been, you know, I do a 4:45 meet at the gym. So I've been doing some, you know, get out of the field and get out of my normal physical activity, whether it's ranching or, you know, even if it was on the job site running a shovel. I don't do that anymore. I can feel it in my body.
Yep.
So I've picked up the slack in the mornings I go to the gym.
Yep.
So
there's such a release too. So like mentally, you know, when you're in the pursuit of the next thing every day, but it's a physical, you know, application, you go home physically exhausted, mentally not exhausted most of the time.
Right.
But it's the opposite way. As you evolve into a less physical role, more mental role, and you're physically not exhausted at night. You're mentally exhausted.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I work out in the morning. If I tried to work out at night, there ain't no way in hell I'd be able to do it.
See, I can't make myself, you know, I'm a problem solver. You know, that's what I do for a living, is I solve problems.
Yep.
And so if I am someplace on a project I'm committed to and there's problems, I can't make myself leave to go work out. I just can't do it. So if I'm going to do anything for me, it has to be in the mornings.
6 a.m. is when the phone starts ringing in our industry, and that's probably that's job site arrival or departure from the office time, right? 7 a.m. is when guys show up and start going to work. 5 p.m. maybe when they stop, if it's a easy day. But normally it's still 9 o'clock. When I was the operations manager, my phone from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. was going to ring at some point.
I'll tell you.
At some point.
There's just the little coincidental things that happen too. So I've been waking up, my alarm goes off 4:45, you know, and I'm only doing 30 to 45 minute workouts. It's a wake up, get the day started, because if I don't do that, then I wake up at 6 and I'm still in the same state of mind that I don't really want to get started yet. You know, I don't really want to get started when I wake up. Doesn't matter if I'm going to work, going to the gym, going to hunt, going to do a flight, to go on a vacation. When I first wake up, I'm like, I don't really want to do this. You know, it's just how my brain works. And so right now, whenever I wake up, I get in that process. Well, actually, it was Monday of this week. My alarm, it's snowing outside Monday.
Yeah.
I wake up 4:45, walk outside to go to the gym. The door on my car's open. And I'm like, what? Like, why is my car door open? Podunk me, I leave my stuff unlocked. Someone robbed me.
Oh,
Someone got into the center console of my car and grabbed, I had a goose call, some face paint, a remote to my stereo, and they must have got spooked, grabbed it, took off. And so then I was like, all right, I got to make sure my stuff's locked. My truck was unlocked, opened it up. They got in the center console of my truck too. And I'm like, all right.
This ain't Colorado, cowboy.
Yeah, I'm like, what's going on? But because, I don't know, talk about bringing that back to a wellness thing, because I'm waking up and I'm like doing the most for myself at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take that like, damn, like
your day wasn't ruined.
Yeah, my day wasn't ruined.
Right.
My day wasn't ruined. And like, I think about it at the end of the day, assess the damages. The guy, he stole, from what I could tell, a couple rubbers from high school that were still in the center console of my truck, a goose call, some face paint,
Right.
and less than like $6 in cash.
Right.
And it's like, all right, perspective.
$50.
Yeah,
Whoop you do.
Less than $50 worth of damage.
I got to get to the gym.
I probably made out like a bandit for not locking my truck, because
Right.
if he wanted to break in, he would have broke a window. It would
Right.
have cost more money. So
Exactly.
like I don't know. It's just like,
it's all about perspective, man. It
because
really
I'm-
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then also, like, you had something to go do.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah. I didn't
your
stop my
focus
day.
was very short term on
Yeah.
what the actual situation was.
Yeah.
I got to go to the gym because I got to start my day.
Yeah.
Time isn't going to wait on me to sit here and be a victim about what happened to me.
Yeah. No.
The world still revolves regardless if we
Yeah.
do or not. So you moved on, you went to the gym, and your perspective was better because
I
you had
laugh
something to
about
go
it.
do.
Yeah, I laugh about it.
It's
Yeah.
laughable.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit, right?
Yeah.
At that point, you're probably better off, like you said, with a solid window
Yeah.
than someone breaking in for your outdated rubbers. Right?
Those I was saving those for
Yeah.
the
I was
talk
gonna-
with my future kids.
Oh, so I want to talk real quick about what success looks like to you.
Yeah.
Freedom to help the people I love and admire
Yeah.
achieve their goals. Time is my currency.
Yeah.
Stories are memories and my reward. I just really like expensive toys.
That's a fact. Yeah, dude.
So I'm sure the expensive toys part is all about the ranch and high level, high quality, very expensive
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
You like blowing shit up. You like high dollar guns too.
Yeah.
So that's part of it.
Yeah. If it's fast, I'm in. Anything with a motor. Grew up on dirt bikes. Grew
Right.
up on snow machines. Things like that. You know.
Right.
So anytime I have some free time and I'm going to do something like that. You know.
Right.
But going back to success, I really like to see the people I'm around, like living their dreams.
Yes,
You know, like
100%.
and I know, going to tie this into wellness, I feel the best whenever I know I've helped. You know, there's no doubt about it. I've helped, and I see this person happy with the results of their life, and I know
amazing.
I've helped,
Yeah.
and like that does it. That's success.
You have such a genuine perspective on life in itself. I have a lot of appreciation for, like, personally as a friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's admirable to see how much you care about other people and how much you care about everyone else's success.
Talking about, I appreciate that. Thank you. I try to practice that. I know it almost stems from something selfish, because I know I feel good whenever I care about helping other people.
Right.
You know, and I learned that in California,
Yeah.
because I was out there and I was thinking about, man, I live in a truck. I had a house in Colorado. I have a ranch in Colorado. What am I doing? I was in the poor me using
Yep.
this thing, and they're like, hey, took some advice from a good friend. They're like, you need to go down to Santa Ana and you need to hand out socks. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, why? What? They're like, go hand out socks. And I went and got with somebody who knew what that guy was talking about, because I don't know what he's talking about.
Right.
And we went to the Walmart. We bought socks. We bought some water. And we bought some sandwiches.
Yeah.
And we went down to the, it's a degenerate. It's for people that are trying to get from homeless to, like, back into society.
Right.
They've stopped, and now they're trying to
Right.
get back into society. And so it's like, You go down there and you listen to these people's stories, and you hand them socks, and you give them a pack of cigarettes, and you listen to how they got to where they're at.
What was your perspective after leaving something like that?
So thankful for my problems.
Yeah.
So thankful. And it's like, and then you meet people that have made it from there to like other levels of success. And it's like, you know, I got to enjoy my day and not think about my problems because I was listening to this person's problem and I was helping them through their problem.
100%.
And so like, you know, I have to be honest, I had to get away from that consistent interaction because there's in that avenue, there's a lot of death. So you get connected to people that don't consistently stick with it, and they'll die. And it's like that. I wore that hard because I was really invested.
And the disappointment, I'm sure, like, because you have such an emotional, like, hope that this person turned his life around and they're going to continue to do so.
Yeah.
And then probably relapse and die. And then you feel probably a personal responsibility. Like, what if I could have been there or could have helped? Or it's an environment thing maybe where it just drags you down because it's like, I thought this person was going to make it out of here. And then they come back down. It's like, did it bring you down sometimes to see the relapse where it's like, I want to be here and support this, but I did my time and I'm not going to grow if I stay here.
Yes.
Is that fair? Yeah.
And there's more. There's more than that. You know, I've since went and helped my sister. She started her own business. You know what I mean? I've got to invest in somebody who was close to me that has been appreciative of it. You know, I've helped my fiance start her own business, you know, and helped her find her passion. I've helped the guy I work for now. I've helped, you know, his business grow. I've got to help his family grow. I've got to help, you know, my family. And like, I've got to invest in the people that invested back in me. And it was not an, you know what I mean? It's just,
100%.
I think what the whole, you know, cookie crumbles down to, it's like, that's what life is, you know, is that type of action.
When you understand the value for yourself and helping other people, like for me, success for me is freedom by the time I'm 40. That's like my big thing. But ultimately my individual success is just a portion of it. That's like a small portion. I get more fulfillment in seeing someone else overcome adversity because I was able to help them or inspire them or guide them in the direction that maybe could help them when they came to me and asked for advice. Like success to me isn't just about what I accomplish. It's about what everyone else around me accomplished. And if I'm the only one in my circle that is accomplishing anything, I'm in the wrong damn circle. Right. You know, I'm not helping anybody. And just like what I went through with adversity in my life and overcame, someone's seen opportunity for me that I couldn't see. Right. And I want to repay that to everybody I can. And that's been happening for as long as there's been human existence, because everyone that gets to a certain point didn't do it on their own. They had someone else that either showed them a way, provided them insight. There was something that triggered them from somebody else, a story or some type of development that got them past that threshold of where they're at. No one's done it on their own. No. And understanding the power and advice.
I would argue that there's really nothing original that anyone's even coming out with anymore.
100%
I think the only thing, you know, that is original is how we string together what we practice. Right. And like that is,
I mean, this show here, I mean, it's the only Iron and Infrastructure LLC that's ever been created. Right. But all the stuff that I've learned isn't organic. I didn't make all this stuff up. Like everything that I've put out or everything I will put out is something that has stringed together from a lifetime of obstacles and overcoming them obstacles.
And understanding that. So Green Lights is one of you talk about books you read. I read too. You actually got me into books. I remember you asked me, do you read, when we first met? And I was like, yeah, I read. You know what I mean? Like I was
who's this fucking weirdo?
Yeah, but then I thought about it and I was like, what's the last book I read? And I read the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I was like, well, you know, that counts. Right. You got to read it. Great read, you know. But no, I haven't read anything for a minute, you know. So then I started reading Green Lights, Matthew McConaughey, and in that it says, it's a great book. It says in there, you know, his mom wrote a poem, copied a poem, plagiarized it. He went to school, he got an A. You know, and his mom put his name on it. He went back, told his mom, he said, hey, I don't feel right about this. And she said, do you like this poem? He said, yeah. He's like, do you feel like you understand this poem? He said, yeah. He said, then it's your poem. You know its value. You know its meaning. It's your poem. You can talk to people about this poem. And it's like, well, that, and like if you like something, you understand it, you can own it. And it's innocent because you understand that its value of it.
It's how you articulate it and communicate it from your own perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a obstacle and then there's a way to overcome it, but it's not a one size fits all. Everyone does it in their own form or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is a blueprint for everyone's individual success that's made by everything else that's already happened in life. If you're intelligent, you're going to tap into development of some form or fashion to figure out how to overcome the obstacle adversity in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, like what you said, there isn't anything organic anymore. It's an accumulation of differences all over the world, and then how you apply it yourself individually, because everyone has a different obstacle and is on a different journey. So how it's pulled in and received and then put into action is different for everybody.
Exactly. That's the uniqueness of it, of our journey. So
Yeah.
like we're all our own main character in our
100%.
story. Like I'm my main character. So I understand you're your main character.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to have a good and like wellness to me is enjoying every day. You know what I mean? I want to enjoy my day. I want to feel like I got the most out of my day, that I gave back in my day, and that I'm a better person today than I was a year ago. That's wellness to me. And so looking at that, how do I help you achieve your passions? I could argue that that's exactly what I'm doing right here.
Right.
You know, I don't talk on podcasts.
Yeah.
You know, this is something I know that you're investing in, and I've seen you invest in this since the beginning, and I want to help you invest in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's why I'm here.
Right.
And
in the return, you know, I know this is something that you've never done, something unique to you. I want you to be uncomfortable because you're my friend. I care about you, and you're going to grow from it, regardless if you think you will or not. Eventually, you're going to look back and be like, "Man, remember that time that I went on that podcast and I talked about this, and that was good insight."
Yeah.
And I was willing to be uncomfortable, willing to put myself out there to try something different. 2 years ago, I did my first one, December of 21. The first episode I ever did on the Roundtable podcast, and we just aired it last week. I asked Corey, I'm like, "Man, are you going to send me like talking points, and are we going to do this or do that?" He's like, "No, stupid. We're talking about you.
right.
Tell your story."
I forgot when.
So
we
I
first
just
started
felt
talking.
like, this is weird. I'm going to be on camera.
Yeah.
Without explaining to him at that point, like, "Hey, I'm going to be on camera. This is one of the biggest fears of my life." Being on camera in front of people, public speaking, and having my damn shirt off.
Well,
The
that's
two
what I was
biggest fears of my
wondering.
life. And it's like, I do this shit every day now just to say,
Right.
look in the mirror.
glad
I'm
your
not scared.
shirt's on. We're on camera.
I mean, I'll take it off if you want.
No,
I'm
good.
not scared.
Good.
It was off this morning. But it's like, you know, I don't take my shirt off every morning for public perception. I take it off for personal perspective. Like, who's the man in the mirror that I'm looking at right now?
Yeah.
By looking at myself, I know if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, no, and I got to poke because I got to be honest with you. You know, like if I had that ownership over the fear, like what was that? Arnold did that with his calves. He thought he had small calves, so he made himself wear shorts all the time until he got big calves.
That sounds like an
that.
Arnold.
Yeah. And so it's like not wearing a shirt makes you probably work on and
So
being comfortable not wearing a shirt.
it's something that, like I referenced fear earlier. Me taking my shirt off every day isn't about an acknowledgement of how I look. It's me putting my arm around fear and showcasing. That's what you get, fear. Check out that six pack. Like, what's up now?
Funny.
So it's just the acknowledgement that I'm not scared.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid. I might be fearful.
Yeah.
There's times last week I was squatting with a belt on and my stomach like pinched my skin together. And I barely have any body fat right now, but it pinched my stomach together and it triggered me like right now. Back to being the kid that was picked on at 13 years old. But guess what?
You're the
little
fatty.
fat kid, little chunky kid. Guess what though? I came back up from that squat. I walked over to the mirror. I gave the mirror the bird and said, "Guess what, fear?
Yeah.
You're not taking me down today because you've taken me down enough to overcome both of them at the same time." Sit on Treadway's lap doing it too.
Yeah. Jesus.
Oh, well, we might as well wrap up the show with that. Find what your success looks like. What are you putting in your pipeline to be successful? I cannot express that message enough. It is so powerful when you understand that there is a different way. The way we've always done it isn't the best way. Maybe there is a different way. Face your fears. Try a different way. Murphy, the Gypsy, thanks for coming on today. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks
Appreciate
for
it,
having
my
me.
friend.
Enjoyed it, man.
Thanks, man. Iron Infrastructure Podcast. We're out. This episode is brought to you by Max Effort Muscle. For all your supplement needs, go to maxeffortmuscle.com. This episode is brought to you by Corey G Fitness. Go to coreygfitness.com for all your training, nutrition needs, personal development, enhanced lifestyle. coreygfitness.com.